Call to order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday, July the 15th. If you would please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after the pledge, remain standing. We led in prayer by Jennifer Lewis, the pastor of Smith Valley United Methodist Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh God, we come here tonight from different places and stations of life. Some of us have had a day filled with anxiety and stress and impossible deadlines. We pulled up in the parking lot with no time to spare, and we find a seat and we breathe a deep sigh of relief. Monday is almost done. And some of us have had a calm day with an easy flow, no surprises. Everything fell into place. We arrived early, no need to rush, and we find a seat and breathe a deep sigh of content. Monday is almost done. For some in this room, it's an old familiar setting. We've been here many times before, and we know these people and this place like a second home. And for others, this is our first time here, and we gather nervously, unsure what to expect. And we've dutifully prepared our remarks, but now we're a little scared what to say. Dear holy and loving God, be with us all here tonight. With your help and grace, let us open our ears so that all may feel heard. Open our eyes so all may be seen. Open our hearts so the world will know we care. Please help us to bring our best judgment, wisdom, for the care and uplifting of one another and our community. Please be with each council person, staff, official, and all those having business before this body tonight. Allow them to feel your presence upon them this day and every day. For all honor and glory is yours. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call.
Armstrong,
Here.
Spates,
Present.
Campbell,
Here.
Dine,
Here.
Foster,
Present.
Gibson,
Here.
Hill,
Here.
Hopper,
Here.
and Lexi.
Here. We have a quorum. Each of you should have received copies of the minutes from our last regular meeting on July 1. Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Motion from Mr. Bates, second.
Second.
Second from Mr. Dine. Any discussion, additions, deletions, or corrections? Seeing none, roll call on the minutes.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
and Lexi.
Aye.
Minutes are approved on a vote of 9-0. This time we set aside an opportunity for our members of the audience to address the council concerning business that is on tonight's agenda. If you're here for that, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, council members and neighbors and friends. Randy Gooden, 1157 Central Park Boulevard South, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. I wanted to take just a moment of your time and speak with you about Resolution 1913. This is a resolution for an abatement and construction of Building 3 out in the South Tech Business Park. I would like to ask the council, as you review this tonight, that you consider the abatement. Instead of seeking a 10-year, if possible, can we have this down to a 5 or maybe even shorter? And the reason I say that is in the time that I've been coming before you in this public forum, we've given millions of dollars to this company to build speculative warehouses, and we don't know what to return. If I read right, this is going to be a minimal job creation, and it's going to be hard for us to recoup the cost versus what we're going to be offering them in tax abatements. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention and ask for your consideration, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, moving on. Reports, Corporation Counsel.
You've all should have seen the semi-monthly report to IDEM and the litigation report, Commissioner Point. If you have questions about either of those, please contact me.
All right. Controller?
Earlier today, I did send out a copy to everybody on this report. So our audit was completed at late June, and then we were able to release the CAFR to the website upon the completion of that audit. I did want to do just a little summary for everyone so that they can understand the difference between this comprehensive annual financial report versus what we do for the state, which is their annual financial report on cash basis. So the CAFR is a set of financial statements that comply with requirements set by the Government Accounting Standards Board. Basically, they have a template that you have to comply with, and everyone who completes the CAFR actually uses the same template. So readers of the financial statements actually will be able to compare them apples to apples. So it does provide interested parties with a more complete picture of our finances because it is on an accrual basis rather than a cash basis. We can relay information not just on the historical data, but we also talk about anticipated changes to our fiscal environment, trends in population and AV growth, priorities for the use of our funds going forward, outstanding debt of overlapping taxing units. So that could be very important for bond buyers to know if they are going to be purchasing a bond, would it be overbearing on the taxpayers because they have maybe a school bond, a county bond, township. So they do want to see that kind of information. The benefit to us in doing this is that underwriters and banks will use this report to determine their risk in buying bonds. So we can get a better interest rate because we are able to give them a complete financial picture as opposed to a cash basis report like what the state has us do. So we did receive for our 2017 fiscal year report the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. That was our 5th year in a row getting that. We have submitted this one, the 2018, to the same program. It does take about 4 to 6 months to hear back on whether or not we do get that certificate. We are one of only 8 municipalities in the state of Indiana that produce the CAFR. There are less than 20 total units, including the state itself, that do the CAFR. So we are kind of ahead of the curve as the state moves more towards an accrual basis accounting system. So our CAFR is audited by the State Board of Accounts, and we have it available on the website. I've posted the link there. We do include their audit, which was an unqualified opinion that the financial statements were, they did not find anything to indicate deficiencies within the statements. The only thing that we did have with them was on the supplemental audit for federal grants. They did want us to have a second reviewer on any reports going to federal agencies for the grants. So we have made that change on our end. And this is just a snapshot from the CAFR. Within the first section of the report, it's a narrative form, so it makes it a little bit easier to read than just the financial statements. We do go through and summarize a lot of the numbers, compare them to prior years. So you can see here the debt position changes. Governmental activity is everything that's not the utilities or the airport, because those are supported by their own fees. And you can see the change in assets there as well. And then the thing that I think may be of interest, not only to the council here, but also the citizenry is the operating information and some of the other schedules that are included. For instance, this one shows our full-time equivalent city government employees by function of program. And you actually can see, for instance, on the police officers and civilians, there's a big drop between 14 and 15. That's when the county took over the 911. So we had people go from here to the county for that. But you can actually see the growth that we've experienced as a city across these. This one here is capital asset statistics. So you can see the growth, particularly in the patrol units. We've expanded our patrol units there in the police. Emergency response units for fire, we've been able to expand. Street miles, you can see that's growing. So all of these things I think are things that could be of interest to the council, at least for planning purposes moving forward. And it's all centralized in this report. The last one I want to show you is just the operating indicators. Talks about the different permits we've released, so you've got 10 years worth of data to compare. Fleet maintenance, police service calls, emergency responses for fire. So this is a place that we can centralize all of the operating data that could be of use to everybody here. Do you have any questions regarding the CAFR?
Congratulations on your certificate.
Thank you. So if you do go on the website, you'll see it's 137 pages. So if you do have questions, give me a call, give me an email, and I'll be happy to help.
Just one question, that, I think I know the answer, but that CAFR report that's on the website is open and available to the public.
Yes, it's on the finance department's webpage on the website at the very bottom. There's a link and it takes you to the document.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Wright. Y'all should have received a copy of my report from the last RDC meeting. If you have any questions, let me know. Any other committee or board reports? Seeing none, ordinances and resolutions, there are none under notice of intent to consider, none under first reading, second reading, resolution 1911.
A resolution declaring certain area within the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. Bethnal Industrial South Tech Business Park, Building 4 and 5, sponsored by Hopper.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Alexi, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion? Mr. Sherman's here to answer any questions.
I'm here to answer questions.
All right, any questions, any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, resolution 1911, second reading.
Armstrong,
Nay.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Alexi.
Aye.
Resolution 1911 passes second reading 7-2.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are scheduled, resolution 1912, scheduled for a public hearing confirming what the council's already done. So,
Read the caption.
yeah.
Resolution number 1912, a resolution confirming resolution 1910, a declaration of a certain area within the city of Greenwood, an economic revitalization area, and qualifying certain real property improvements for property tax abatement, and setting the time and place for a public hearing. SWSRK Holdings, 173 East Broadway, sponsored by Hopper.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Dine. Again, this is the tax abatement that Mr. Bates and I know the people who are applying for this, and so we've recused ourselves, and we will do so today. So, any discussion, resolution 1912? Oh, public hearing. It's open for a public hearing. If you would like to speak for or against resolution 1912, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Any discussion on the council? All right. Roll call, resolution 1912.
Bates,
Abstain.
Abstain.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
and Armstrong.
Aye.
Resolution 1912 passes 7-0 with 2 abstentions. New business, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions, Resolution 1912, or 1919, Ordinance 1919.
An ordinance amending Chapter 4, Article 2, Division 7, Section 470, massage establishments and masseurs of the Greenwood Municipal Code 1993 as amended to clarify exemptions, sponsored by Gibson and Hill.
All right, anybody want to speak to this?
Mr. President, I would like to ask that we suspend the rules and move this through. This is something that we've been working on for a couple of months. There are 2 ladies that one of them had formerly been in Greenwood, and then the partner that was in with her moved out of state and she had to relocate, and she relocated in Marion County. Now she's coming back to Greenwood, and there was a lot of verbiage in there that didn't really pertain to the massage parlors as they are today. When we put this on our books or put it in our system, we were having some problems with illegal activity, and it was written to help the police department be able to be assertive and get that situation under control. And I had sent an email out to all the council members letting them know that they would like to get this through the first and second reading tonight so that they're operating legally here in the city.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Gibson to suspend the rules through first reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hill. Any discussion on suspension? Seeing none, roll call on suspension.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
and Bates.
Aye.
Rules are suspended through first reading. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Mr. Hill. Any discussion?
Does this take away any of the teeth that were used to prevent the illegal activities?
No.
No.
What this actually does is it clarifies language, who's exempt. It said certified, people who have certificates in the healing arts. We just made it clear that massage therapists have a certificate and they are not subject to regulation by this ordinance, but anyone else who would call themselves a masseur or masseuse that's operating a massage establishment that's not a certified massage therapist would still be regulated by it. So that doesn't change.
And Bruce, there was some verbiage in there that said that they couldn't operate in a room that it had to be behind an opaque curtain and some things of that nature that just isn't really appropriate for today's massage.
One of the things I've learned on the council is that definition of terms is everything, and this defines things better so it's clear what we're regulating and what we aren't. So, any further discussion on Ordinance 1919? Seeing none, roll call. Ordinance 1919, first reading.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
and Campbell.
Aye. Ordinance 1919 passes first reading 9-0.
Mr. President, I would like to move for a second reading, please, to suspend the rules.
We have a motion by Ms. Gibson, second by Mr. Hill on suspension of the rules through second reading. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call on suspension.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill.
Aye.
Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Nay.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
and Dine.
Aye.
Suspension of the rules through second reading fails on a vote of 7-2. And I usually do this, we have Boy Scouts here, but tonight, just so you'll know, to suspend it all the way through to second reading, it was all in one night, requires a unanimous vote the second time. Doesn't require a unanimous vote through the first reading, but it does if we try to spend it all the way through. So since it was not a unanimous vote, Even though the majority voted to suspend the rules, it wasn't unanimous, it fails. So we'll take up second reading at our next meeting. Ordinance 1920.
An ordinance vacating platted drainage and utility easements located at 361 Redbud Place, sponsored by Hill.
Anybody here to speak to this?
Hello, Matt Ham, on 361 Redwood Place, looking to build a garage over an easement, I'd like to vacate that.
Okay. Any questions from the council?
What was the easement for?
It's an old utility easement, the property line was 13 feet from the house, it is now 38 feet, an extra 25 feet of property was purchased some years ago before I purchased the house. So I'd like to get rid of that easement to build a garage.
Seems like this is something that should be for, it come before the ZBA. Is that something?
No, under your ordinance, you vacate platted easements like you do rights of way, and you'll get a recommendation from the Plan Commission, and you'll get one from the Board of Public Works and Safety. The Board of Public Works and Safety did consider this at their last meeting,
Okay.
and they did a recommendation recommending that you do vacate it. We have not received the recommendation from the Plan Commission. I believe that's going to be placed on the July 22nd agenda.
Just a procedural question.
Okay.
So Shauna, should this be based on, we don't have to have the planning commission's recommendation, we can do it
The
solely
the
on.
ordinance states that the Greenwood Plan Commission and Greenwood Board of Works have given a favorable recommendation, so hopefully that'll be true before we vote on this. So,
Yeah, they should be considering it at their next meeting on July 22nd and forwarding that to you.
all right. Any other questions from the council? All right, thank you very much. Ordinance 1921.
An ordinance amending Greenwood Municipal Code 1993 as amended Chapter 6, Safety Departments and Regulations to add Article 14 regarding hotels and places of public lodging, sponsored by Foster.
Mr. Foster, do you have any?
It's kind of what I ran on when I won the caucus. I just believe we can better the community and the city by better regulating the hotels on the east side of the city and the rest of the city. And if they fly it on the straight and narrow and improve themselves, they're not gonna have any trouble. But this just shows that they can have consequences if they become problem spots anywhere in the city if they have issues.
All right. Any questions? Yes.
Drew, who's the enforcement agency? Are they cited by the police, code enforcement? Are they given a letter by the city attorney to appear before us? How does that go? How does it go work?
It's not so much being cited as if the number of calls, well, per hotel, if the number of calls out there for fire, police, health department, stuff like that. Nuisance stuff is more than twice the number of rooms for that specific lodging, because every hotel's gonna have a different number of rooms and occupancy. That's twice the number than their license that they get from the city just goes on probation. There's some other things they might have to comply with, either hire an off-duty officer, either it's a Greenwood officer or someone from county or any other agency as part-time security, only allowing people to use credit cards to check in, things of that nature. If they continue to be a problem, don't remediate the issues they're having, and they lose their license to operate. Again, fire department, fire marshal, police chief they can do the spot inspections and just at the end of the year, at 1 year period, look at the numbers and see if they're in compliance or not.
Thank you.
Drew, is it possible for someone or for you to find someone that can provide us with the number of rooms at the Red Roof Inn and Red Carpet and In-Town Suite before the meeting? Because right now it's really hard to tell what those numbers would be.
Oh, I can do that absolutely by next meeting.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Foster. Resolution 1913.
A resolution declaring certain area within the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing at Nell Industrial South Tech Business Park Building 3, sponsored by Campbell.
Mr. Sherman.
Thank you. This, Beck Nell, as you've times in the council chambers as a great investor for the city of Greenwood. This is a 64,000 square foot facility. It's not a warehouse. It would lend itself to be something like pointer sheet metal. So I mean, this type, this size is in need. Our inventory in our city is not very large. So this size of building, so it lends itself, you know, to the light manufacturing and such as that. So you can see we've got employees here that we obviously need to fill up the line, but typically, as you saw from the CF1 pointer, those can be very high. So that's what we're hoping to do.
Any questions for Mr. Sherman?
So when, in the form, when you put, the pay is $17.50 an hour, is that just a guesstimate based on past?
Placeholder, yes.
Yeah, in the past, even though they don't know who the occupant's gonna be, we have asked that they provide some sort of an estimate. The petitioner has requested, if possible, that we suspend the rules tonight through first reading, so I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Lexi, second by Mr. Dine. Any discussion on suspension? Seeing none, roll call on suspension of the rules through first reading on a resolution 1913.
Gibson,
Aye.
Bill.
Aye.
Hopper. Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
and Foster.
Aye.
Rules are suspended through first reading. Do I have a motion for first reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lexi, or Mr. Foster, I'm sorry. Second, Mr. Dine. Any discussion on resolution 1913?
Where's the location of this?
It's on Graham Road north of Main Street. As you remember, they've got building 1, 2, and this is 3, 4, and 5 are right on.
This is near Pointer.
Pointer's farther south. This is right on Main Street.
Okay,
I mean, it's Pointer's south of that.
that's right, Pointer is farther south.
So they'll have that whole complex.
Yeah, all right.
More and put in this one.
Any further discussion? Questions? Seeing none, roll call, resolution 1913, first reading.
Bill. Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Nay.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Dine,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
and Gibson.
Aye.
Resolution 1913 passes first reading 8-1. Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Miscellaneous business from the council. This is County Fair Week. I think the county GOP is designated tomorrow night as Greenwood Night, so if any of you can make it out there, the tent's open from 5 to 7. Anything else? 5 to 9. Anything else from the council? All right, seeing none, audience requests, a second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council concerning business with the city that is not on the agenda. So if you would like to do so, please step to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Hey everybody, it's Matthew Smith, 450 South Bay Drive, Greenwood, Indiana. I've got for you today, let me pass it around, a petition for you. So, what I'm here to talk to you guys about today is Carroll Drive. It's in the Northgate neighborhood. It is the eastern thoroughfare through our neighborhood. And we've been having a lot of issues with dangerous traffic through there. To give you guys a description of the area, it was a area that was built right after the Korean War. So a lot of the homes in there, the majority of the homes, the driveways are very, very narrow. Because at that time, the lifestyle of people then were they had one car, if that. In our modern lives, we've got more than one car, and so what happens is a two-way thoroughfare through Carroll. It was meant to be 2 ways. One of the ways through is blocked by a vehicle most of the time. Now there is a solution of they have no parking on the eastern bound side of the street. But without any other variance through there. So what we're asking for, what the citizens of Northern Park would like to see there are a couple stop signs, and we put two specific locations we like it there. One on Carroll and Marcy, and another on Carroll and Bentwood. And now the intersection we're talking about there is the southernmost Bentwood. Bentwood kind of curves off at Carroll, stops at Carroll. There's a small section of Carroll and continues on from there. And we're talking about the southernmost there and making the stop signs there. And what we're asking for today is for the approval of a traffic study with the considerations that there is parking on one side of the street, and it is oftentimes the case that blocks two-way movement through the street.
Chief Loud, do we not have to get a traffic study done for that? What needs to be done? Okay, Daniel?
Are you wanting the traffic study for the volume of traffic, for the speeds of the vehicles, or specifically running stop signs or?
He's wanting stop signs.
Okay, but for looking for violations in that neighborhood?
Well, it's specifically with the consideration of the traffic on the westbound being stopped with the cars parked on the street. Because oftentimes they will be within the speed limit within about 5 miles an hour, but even with that, with the added obstacles, and then you add in kids on bikes who they're on the street rightfully, but have to be a little more into the street because of that, because of it blocked with street parking. We'd like some considerations there on some kind of engineering control. We suggest stop signs, but if there's some smarter people than us to design something to inhibit dangerous conditions, we're certainly amenable to that.
May I speak?
You may.
Thank
Yes.
you. You delegated to the Board of Public Works and Safety in a prior ordinance, actually, in the ordinance it says the Board of Works and Safety shall determine in its discretion the location of stop and yield intersections. And all stop and yield intersections, any traffic control device has to be installed in conformity with the Indiana Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. That requires some kind of engineering judgment, so typically engineering staff would make sure they go out, because if it's intersections, they'll look at volumes of cars that go through to determine what needs to be done. So if you have been to the Board of Works and Safety and requested it, then it's already on the city's radar, and they will probably ask staff to go out and do the necessary engineering studies for the manual to make a recommendation to have that done.
Yeah, our petition there, which by the way is over 100 of our neighbors just in our neighborhood, we presented that to the Board of Public Works and Safety this evening.
Okay.
And so their recommendation to us was to come to this meeting and present it to you guys and see if you guys could approve a traffic study.
And I would think that it would be authorized to be done, because that's been, by the ordinance, given to the discretion of the Board of Works and Safety. If they've asked the engineering staff to look at it, that traffic study is probably authorized to be done, although if there's costs associated with it, if an additional money or something is needed, you would ask the council for that.
Yeah, at this point, it's my understanding that the placement of traffic stop or yield signs is not under our jurisdiction, so I'm not sure what we could do and to approve a traffic study when we haven't had one requested of us. It's a little early to do that. I mean, if they want one and they need our permission, then I guess they could come and ask. But right now, this is beyond our scope and jurisdiction, is my understanding, so.
Okay, yeah, and as it's been explained to me, it was, and why we're coming forward to this meeting is to ask for any additional appropriations they might need for that to do the traffic study, because, people doing the traffic study like to get paid, so.
But if they decide to do that and need additional appropriations, that would come before us in the form of an ordinance. Is that correct?
Correct. Are you asking, are they amenable to considering an additional appropriation if it's necessary?
Yes, that's our purpose tonight.
We'll see.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. President, who gets the petition? Does Mr. Smith get it back?
Did you give one to the clerk?
We did, yes.
Okay.
That is a copy that you have. We have the originals already.
Anyone else from the audience wishing to address the council at this time? All right, seeing none. Other miscellaneous business, Corporation Council,
There's none.
Controller, Mr. Mayor. We are adjourned. Thank you.